the difference between the price and the value is big, and this is an opportunity. And I think that that happens in very young industries, and this is what happens in Web3 right now. And we are seeing this difference between the value we are providing and how this is seen by regulators, by people who are coming into this space, and so on and so forth.
Hello, visionaries. It's Elaine Lee, your friendly crypto host and producer at Real Vision. I wanted to discuss DAOs today because I think DAOs have solid communities, and I'm just wondering how they are basically handling the bear market, and if we should take this cooling season to give them a little bit more attention. So today I have Vlad with me, and thanks for coming on to have this conversation with me, Vlad.
Thanks a lot for having me.
No problem. All right, let's get it kick off. I think first and foremost, break it down to us and remind us in the most simple way. What on earth is a DAO?
Well, I think everyone knows it's a decentralized autonomous organization, but moving away from this definition, which is maybe difficult for some to understand, I think it's a new way to organize ourselves in the digital world. And if you go back in history, we always had native ways for people to organize themselves in different moments of the history. Like from very old past, from up to today, we tried to find the best ways to organize ourselves in order to, back then, to find food, to find shelter, and so on. Right now, I don't know exactly what we are searching, to be honest, because probably many are searching different things. But I do believe that we need a native, let's say, form of organizing ourselves when in this digital world, because most of our lives are in the digital space. So we might need a native way to organize ourselves here, maybe to make money, maybe to have fun, maybe to have a different life from the reality. Who knows?
Look, we spoke off camera, and I know you actually studied history. That's why you like to study the frameworks of governance, so to speak. So, Vlad, for those who are completely new to you, what keeps you busy all day, every day in the world of crypto?
In the world of crypto or with DAOs?
Both. I like it how you just gave me a big sigh because you're like, oh, Elaine, this is a big one. Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and talk us about your company first and what you do?
Yeah. So I'm an entrepreneur for half of my life. I'm 34 and I started when I was 17. So I walked away from a business that was profitable, which is still works, but I'm not having any kind of, I'm not doing anything there. I walked away in 2017 because crypto was too damn sexy. Back then, yeah, I swear. So back then,
it was a triple figure in Ethereum, I believe.
It was. I've seen even two figures, so don't worry about that. So, but back then, I think that it was three figures. I think when I started, but it was not about figures. It was more about how we can change the direction for the current economic issues that we have. So after that, I was an investor for quite some time. And at a certain point in time, I said, okay, I think I was reading and educating myself and so on. And the teacher in me felt like you have to do something. As in, you have to spend your time in this environment doing something meaningful. So we started the StakeBorg, which back then was just a company, a normal company, in 2020, exactly when the COVID started. And we were like, we will do our best to educate the Romanian community about crypto, because I strongly believe that crypto is very useful for emerging countries, for poor countries, because people from well-developed countries are not, because their country is doing well, they are not feeling the need of, asking very serious questions. So, but us in Romania or people from Argentina, Venezuela, and so on, probably they do. So we started this education journey, and we've built our community like pretty fast because people were hungry to know things. And at a certain point in time, and this is interesting, they asked why we are not a DAO. And we were like, yeah, good question. Why we are not a DAO? So we started a DAO, but it was a long discussion because we didn't want to have a DAO just for the sake of having one. We were like, okay, we will create a DAO for our community, but what's next? Because we need to give a direction to this DAO, we need to make it profitable, and so on and so forth. So here we are. StakeBorg DAO has a few thousand members on Discord. I think we are more than 5,000 right now. We have more than 1,000 token holders, and we are building the next infrastructure for DAOs in order for everyone to create a DAO with the wizard. If you remember when you were installing something on Windows, it was like next, 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 choose this, choose that, next, next, finish. This is how we will create DAOs in the next six months, I think.
Okay, interesting. So I want to pick up on sort of the highlight of your thesis for your DAO, which I popped into your Discord. I think I found it. It's about 14 pages long. But if you can give me the highlight of your thesis, I would love to learn a little bit more about that, because I love that you're already, it's basically community first and then the direction of, the community that you've built, which should actually be, genetically how every successful project going forward should have like a solid community first, I think anyway. So tell me like just a basic thesis around StakeBorg DAO.
First of all, I think it's very important to understand that the power of DAOs comes from really understanding the reality and doing the right pivots at the right time. Because it's a very new environment. There is no path. There is no direction which was described by someone who was successful and so on. So it's Terra Nova. Because it's the new world, we need to find the right ways to do things. So we are making mistakes. We are thinking about doing this, and then we realize, well, guess what? It was a stupid idea. So the main thesis that we have is everyone should be able to create his own or her own DAO. If they can aggregate a community, they should be able to democratize the access to themselves with that DAO. Think about, and I've seen the news that Raul and Delphi, actually we say Delphi, right? Just had a nice round to create social tokens for celebrities and so on. From my perspective, every celebrity should have a DAO. This is how they will give power to their fans to decide on small things to begin with and bigger things to continue. So coming back to our question, we do believe that DAOs will become the new reality when it comes to having a company online. Because we are speaking about metaverse and everything. Well, guess what? It will be weird to have a company in metaverse, but the company is not in the metaverse, or it's like in the real world. So we do believe that DAOs can become these native ways to aggregate people in this digital era. Of course, our white papers, because there are two of them, actually it's 1.0 and 1.1, it's more philosophical, because we strongly believe that people like us, we are trying to find our ways to more freedom. And the digital space allowed us to actually continue the adventure. So crypto and blockchain is like a vehicle that will move us very fast to some freedom your parents or my parents never imagined. So from this perspective, we need to create the infrastructure and to be like super sure that this infrastructure will help the people that will join this space to find ways, for example, to work better, because we will see people working for multiple DAOs. People will find their friends in these DAOs. People will find like common, I don't know, hobbies and so on and so forth. So our main thesis is we don't know what we don't know for now, but it's very important to start with small steps, create the infrastructure, so we will start to know what we don't know, and from there we will blossom.
That's interesting because I think you're seeing like the infrastructure of a business that's being natively built within the internet and how to shape that. Okay, that's interesting. So, what kind of problems do you wish to solve with StakeBorg?
Oh my God. So it's a very important question because we are seeing right now a very weird environment. We are seeing huge companies, huge projects, huge VCs going under. And it reminds me of how I felt in 2008 when I was seeing banks being bankrupt. I think we are in a moment where the the bad parts are being cut from the environment so we can blossom more. This being said, everyone should have a goal from actually building something that will strengthen the confidence of people in this industry. Because even back then, like 1 year ago, there were like a gazillion people saying this is a scam, this is a Ponzi, this is like all kind of shit. And it was important for us, and I think it's important for Real Vision as well. And I discussed this with when I had Raul on my podcast. I think people who want to actually build something in this industry to be super sure that the main layer is to make the newcomers very confident that we are here to stay.
Yeah.
This is like a macro thing that needs to be solved. Secondly, there will be more and more questions about DAO, and I know we will discuss a little bit about regulation as well. And I'm pretty sure that the establishment will try everything, not everything because they are not enemies. They will try some things to make new ways of doing business difficult. And I think it's normal. We should expect that. Speaking of Raul saying like, well, if the tokens will be securities, guess what? We will find ways. And I think he's right. And I think he's right when it comes to DAOs as well, because we can use the same logic.
Right. Vlad, no, let me ask you this. How did you get into the whole crypto space in the first place? Because catching it at 2010, how was it introduced to you?
In
How did you catch it at the double figure?
In 2014, my business partner told me, well, we should look into this Bitcoin thing. And I was very politic. And I said, like, the government will destroy it. They will never allow it. Back then, I think I was believing more in the government's capability to understand technology. And I was wrong, obviously. So we did nothing. But I was still sneaking around. I was looking at the prices and I like, is this thing coming together or not? Will they destroy it before we blink and so on? So it was like 2015, 16, and in 2017, the moment I think it was Ethereum. Because Bitcoin was more like, it was very cryptic. The community was not very friendly. But Ethereum made sense. And on top of that, I knew that, and I think many people know right now, Ethereum was written in Zug by Vitalik, and
who you've interviewed, by the way.
Yeah.
We'll get into that later.
And many Romanians. So in Zug, there were like 6 or 7 Romanians writing at the main, let's say, ground zero for Ethereum. And I heard about that, and I was like, that might be something interesting. And I started to explore the environment. I understood the thesis of a world computer, and the rest is history.
Well, from listening to what you said, I think it makes sense because it's longer terms. So basically having that solid community, because NFTs, sometimes it's weird and wonderful and different projects that pop up, but you want to go with the projects with the founders who are here to stay. So I guess that I guess that is my answer, that I think it's for longer investments, they're here to stay, and they know who the people are with their community in order to grow together?
I wanted to understand better the nature of your question.
Sure.
Because by the end of the day, if you think about it, an NFT is a token. So before NFTs, there wasn't this question wasn't asked, right? Because some people knew about CryptoPunks, but very few.
Vlad, I want to move on to regulation of a DAO, because as part of a DAO, it's about governance, of course. So I read that in the US, only about 100 investors are allowed in a DAO, or you'd be in trouble with the SEC. Can you elaborate the regulations of DAOs at the moment from a general overview?
Yeah. So first of all, thank God I'm not in the US. Secondly, secondly, I think we will have DAOs. We will have regulation for DAOs all over the world, and it's a good thing. I don't believe that we can thrive and be interesting for everyone if we don't have clear regulation. And
we're aiming to be permissionless, not lawless, right?
Exactly. This is a very good quote. We will use it on our social media, so you'll become a star.
Take it and run with it.
Yeah. So from this perspective, I think running away, saying like, well, regulation will come, who knows what will happen, is the wrong approach. The correct approach is, how can we work with the regulators in each country to have a reasonable set of rules, right? And we are doing this in Romania. And if everyone would play his own role, like in Hungary, in France, in Germany, in UK, and so on, I think we could finish with a nice regulation for DAOs. I think crypto will be a completely different asset class, and DAOs will be seen as how people organize themselves within this new asset class. And this is what we should aim for. And we are seeing some things in the US, and I think it's not enough. And I think it will be different from state to state, obviously. And I really hope, and I know that we will have some regulation about DAOs in small countries in Europe, like in Estonia, and we already have discussions in Romania, because I think that's a very good opportunity for small countries to attract investments, talent, and so on. And we are hearing that a lot with in the US, saying, well, if we will not be able to have a good framework, people will go offshore. And guess what? It's with DAOs and with crypto in general, it's super easy. So I'm pretty sure this will happen. So the game theory will be real. That's why I think we will have a good regulation when it comes to DAOs and crypto in general.
Okay. Vlad, I do want to talk about the 5,000 members that you have in your community. Like I told you. Pardon?
Do you want to speak about each of the 5,000 or in general?
It's amazing that you can ask me that, because that's how much you know about your community, and that's how closely you are aligned with your community and the mission and the values that you're trying to carry out. And that's something to recognize, I think. So no, we won't go through every single community member, which I'm so happy, I'm sure, for your community to listen to that. But who are mostly in your community? I know you guys are based in Europe. You are in Romania right now, and there's a big Romanian following. So tell me just a little bit more about your community and what's going on there.
Our community is full of crypto enthusiasts, and I think this is important. Like, every mother speaks well about her child. It's the same in crypto. So take that with a grain of salt, whatever else.
It's a really sophisticated Discord chat. I do find the questions that they're asking really valuable. I'm thinking, oh, wow, they're actually solving this and getting this done.
Yeah, we are trying to do that. And with the DAO, we started the education part in English as well, because we thought that was an important part. That's why we started the StakeBorg DAO podcast, where Vitalik, Raul, Tom Bilio, and all the good people in crypto were present. And we also have a show called The DAO Notes, which is a podcast just about DAOs. And the podcast, Elaine, I'm telling you, the hosts are two guys. One is 20, the other one is 24. They were people in our community, and now they work for the DAO, and they are doing an amazing job. They're holding Twitter Spaces and so on and so forth. Coming
These
back to
scary Gen Zs are going to take my job. That's what they're doing.
exactly. So coming back to your question, the most interesting part for us was to do meetings in person, and I will send you via email some photos. So we are usually getting like 40 to 50 people to these meetings, and we are discussing all kind of things from crypto to non-crypto to like all these interesting stuff. Our community is mostly in Romania, it's like 90%. But we have right now, people are starting because we have people who are watching the podcast and they love how things are going there. We are getting people who are not Romanians as well. And we strongly believe that in 3 months' time, when we will launch the first product, the construct, the DAO infrastructure I told you about, I'm pretty sure we will see many people on our Discord, first of all, trying to understand how they can use construct, and secondly, to fit into our community, because, and this is very important, people from Romania speak very good English. So because we are studying from very early in our lives, we are able to speak pretty well, and this is the reason why even our English Discord is pretty active.
Okay, I see. And well, the most important thing is to keep the dialogue and the importance of an infrastructure of a DAO within your community, which is what I'm picking up. So I guess I do want to have a conversation even deeper about regulation. Is as we speak, I know the EU is trying to iron out an agreement called the markets in crypto assets. They call it MICA or MICA. I don't know how to pronounce it, but regarding
It doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter, or regarding the regulatory framework. I think my question to you, as someone is growing this sort of space with your community, are there any concerns that you would have over these talks?
I think if we start having concerns whenever regulators are discussing, we will die young, especially when it comes to crypto. First of all, the discussion is pretty long. I'm not sure regulators have the time, the willingness, and even the know-how to understand this space before they come with something meaningful. But it's also our fault because we are not doing enough to discuss with them and tell
Educate
them
them,
like,
yeah.
look. Just listen 5 minutes. It's helpful. Just listen to us. And this happens in the US, and I think SBF did a very good thing with his donation to Biden campaign. And I think this will continue as a trend when it comes to regulation in Europe as well. I'm seeing in Romania, and I will come back to your question about the European regulation.
Sure.
I'm seeing in Romania a significant interest from regulators to understand. And to be honest, I was sure this will never happen. So when we started this, it was more like, well, it's a long shot. Who knows what we will be able to do? But right now, we are seeing from different, let's say, how do you call this in the US, agencies, people who are saying like, well, I don't know if you are for real or not, if you're a scam or not, but I want to understand more, because guess what? If this is the trend and we are missing it, we will be seen as fools, right? I think this happens at the
We're
level.
too noisy in the crypto space.
Yeah, exactly. And I was discussing with someone from the European Parliament just a few days ago, and I asked him about regulation and everything, and he explained to me, and I will not give his name, not to throw him under the bus. But he explained that, well, European regulation is very complex. You can start with multiple frameworks at the same time. One dies on while it's discussed, another one comes, and so on. So it's a lot of rah 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 rah. we are not worried as of now, but we are watching this carefully, and we are doing our best to explain our perspective. And I think that's the best thing we can do.
Good, good. Well, I think that's, still one of the most important things, because obviously there's a void of communication going on, between the relevant parties. But I think, to me, about DAOs is it's meant to be the government structure, but yet you don't hear from enough political voices talking about DAOs. So that's why, for anyone who is trying to first understand a DAO, is trying to get their head around that.
Let me add something really quick. If you remember, the initial discussion was, why the heck do we need blockchain when we have a database? Actually, before that, it was, why do we need a blockchain if we have Excel? Then they started to understand some things, and it was like, if we have a database, why do we need blockchain? Well, right now, it's clear for everyone that having these big databases in the hands of very few companies in this world, because if you think about it, everything around us is a database. Everything, right?
Yeah.
And we are never questioning who is holding these databases. But if we go like very deep into the woods, we will see that most of the database in this world, some companies are like hosting it, not the governments, not everything. Some companies are holding all these databases. And we are seeing the danger of like, well, is it normal for 5 big companies in this world to hold the destiny of the entire world? Because if one big database stops working tomorrow, maybe you'll not be able to extract money, to withdraw money from your ATM, right? So afterwards, people were like, so that's why we might need decentralization that comes along with blockchain, to make sure that it's not these big companies holding the world together.
Right.
So
and
right
if the
now,
internet user is providing the sort of data, I'm assuming the whole, how Web3 is trying to build right now is that the users get incentivized for whatever data that they provide for the internet.
Exactly. So we are it's normal for new things, new industries to be not so clear at the beginning. Imagine I was reading the Bezos letters from like 2001, and he said something very interesting that I wrote in our newsletter. He said,
that triggered your thoughts.
Look, our revenue is up 100%. Our revenue from UK and Germany is up 90% from 1999. Our spending is lower. Everything was up. And it was a letter from 2000 when the dot-com bubble happened. Everything is up, but our stock price is down 80%, which means that the difference between the price and the value is big, and this is an opportunity. And I think that that happens in very young industries, and this is what happens in Web3 right now. And we are seeing this difference between the value we are providing and how this is seen by regulators, by people who are coming into this space, and so on and so forth.
Vlad, I went onto your YouTube channel and I watched snippets of the interview that when you had a sit down with Vitalik. And a quote that popped out to me in that interview was, once you have these ecosystems with their niches, consider them as think tanks. That's how big we're talking about when you need to get your mindset around how the structure of a DAO functions. So can you go a little bit deeper into that for me?
It is difficult because to go deep into into something that Vitalik says is like difficult, but
open that vortex for me, Vlad.
But back then it was a trigger for us, because I was telling you like a few minutes ago DAOs will continue this trend of not being understood. Right now, why do we need DAOs when we can have companies and so on and so forth? So the DAOs will continue the same trajectory we had with blockchain. First of all, why we don't need them? We have the companies. Then, well, maybe we need them, but well, they have this token. What should I do with this token? It's difficult for people to understand. And well, we have to vote. Oh my God, how do we vote? Where do we go to vote? And so on and so forth. So it's a struggle. It's a struggle, but we are getting there. The think tank part is more, we are seeing that happening. And this is one thing that really excites me. People coming together to find solutions is maybe the most interesting part of a DAO. And I will give you an example. So right now, we are trying to establish a financial committee that will give grants to people from the community that are coming with great ideas that will push us forward. And with great ideas, I don't know, a PR campaign, a marketing campaign, an idea for a new product, everything that at the stage of an idea could get a grant to push that forward. These ideas coming together by the end of the day, if we manage to find the right people, if we manage to incentivize the right people, and all these are good questions. How do we find the right people to incentivize? How do you incentivize them? And everything. If we do this right, we will finish having 100, let's say 100 people that are spending meaningful time thinking about meaningful answer to meaningful questions. And I think this is the definition of a think tank, right? So I think what people don't understand about DAOs, or maybe it's confusing, DAOs are giving directions, right? So it's a structure, because a structure gives you direction. Probably everyone can go on the internet and find some answers or think about something. You can answer an interesting question on Reddit, but you don't have this structure that puts together human creativity, which is very important. If you think about it, creativity was very different in history, very different. In the 19th century, it was for the first time when painters were allowed to paint something which was not real. Up to that point, painters had to paint only what they were seeing. And when I'm saying it was allowed, it was like socially allowed. And that happened because photography appeared, right? So creativity changed completely. It was like an important moment. The photography appeared. And from that point moving forward, the painters were like, well, guess what? Now, because we have photography to have like a fixed image of the reality, we are able to paint I don't know, a pink dog or a tree that's it's upside down, and the creativity changed completely. When the digital world started, and with the internet, we started to slowly grind our way to understand, well, guess what? We can open an email, we can send an email, we can buy things online, and so on and so forth. It was one type of creativity. When we started to find social networks, the creativity exploded, because suddenly, before you had thoughts and ideas that you expressed with the members of your family and you were considered a genius. With social platforms, you were writing something and many people were like, yeah, you're a genius. And that pushed you to think more about, well, what can I do with my creativity, and so on and so forth. So we have a new digital creativity that needs to be organized. The question is, what is the structure, the right structure that will organize this digital creativity?
That's a really good analogy that you set out there. Thank you. It was really just useful and clear. So, and then, okay, so let me ask you this then. How does a decision get made in your DAO? Like, talk me through the process. How does like treasure management work? Is it just a simple of like, we are putting this idea out there, click yes, click no in the Discord? Take me step by step how a decision is made.
So I had recently on my pod, I had Anthony Sassano, maybe the best educator in Ethereum ecosystem. And I asked him, what do we need as DAOs in order to thrive? Because we are seeing some stalling when it comes to many things in DAOs. And he told me that people need to understand that every DAO needs some kind of leadership. Because many think about DAOs and we think that, well, it's a form of digital anarchism where everyone can say whatever, everyone can vote whatever and everything. So that's obviously this kind of anarchism leads to good people leaving because they don't want to spend meaningful time doing like stupid shit. So the main goal for a good leadership in DAO in early stages is to point the community in the right direction. And this means like, okay, we have the following problems to solve. What do we do with the treasury that we have? Because most of the DAOs, they have only the native token and so on and so forth. And
We'll
it's a
talk
decision.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have many types of decisions, right? How do we approach each decision? And to be more specific to our case, because that was your question, first of all, we encourage everyone to discuss things on Discord and to interact with people who might support their idea. So if tomorrow someone says like, look, I strongly believe that StakeBorg DAO should have a booth at I think that's the word, at a music festival because many young people are there. We can do a gamified thing and we could have we can increase the awareness of our DAO and so on. If no one says nothing about that idea, probably it's a bad one, right? If the idea gets traction in the Discord, it's our duty as leaders of this community to say, okay, maybe you don't understand what's happening here. This is an idea that has traction. So if you didn't think about this before, we will tell you that maybe we should have a proposal for that. And this is how a proposal should look. And we have this on our website. It's called Community Compass. And there you have like all type of templates, documents on how to create a proposal and so on and so forth. In the early stages, as leaders of the community, we need to help them to create these proposals, right?
Yeah.
Because, well, they
just
don't
a slight
know.
sense of direction.
Exactly. So once the idea has some traction, then we are pushing, or they are pushing into a proposal, and the proposal is happening on a snapshot on a platform. The text of the proposal has some clear things like what do you want to do, how much tokens do you need, and so on and so forth. And then there is some time, like a few days, of debating there. So not on Discord where you can go in many directions. There you discuss the proposal. And people are saying, well, I think 10,000 tokens is too much, or 5 tokens is too little, and so on and so forth. And people can vote there, but it's not an on-chain vote. So you don't pay for the vote. It's just to get the temperature of the DAO members to understand if the proposal has some chances to pass or not, in order to avoid having a gazillion proposals to vote. It's just like, how do you call that? The room before the main room.
Right.
Yeah, it's like and the camera. I don't know what's the name in English. Anyways, it's like before you go to vote on chain and put people to spend money to vote, you are getting the feeling of the DAO if most of the people think the proposal should be accepted or not. And after a few days, usually I can't remember exactly. I think it's 6 or 7 days because it depends. You are saying like, look, this proposal has some traction, so probably we should move it to vote on chain. And then once the proposal is made, to vote on chain. There are like 3 days for the warm up, and basically the warm up is more like you are going on your social media, you are going in Discord and everything, and say, hey.
You're basically doing the research in a
Exactly.
very quick manner to see how the feels are. Okay. Why don't we talk about your social token? Is it standard?
Yep.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, yeah, I thought that yep will not solve the question. So so standard token, and I'm really happy that we've been able to reserve this name because I think it's pretty catchy. So the token helps you to navigate in the DAO, and this token will play a meaningful part in the products that we will build for other DAOs. So once we will have Construct as a product being launched, and you want to have your own DAO, probably in a way or another, we are working on the economics as we speak, you should hold the standard token in order to have things in motion, which makes total sense, right? Because that's the reason why you have a token. And I think that's a very good question, because this leads me to the utility of the token. We've seen in the last few years not only DAOs, but many projects having tokens without real utility. And this is the biggest struggle that we are seeing in the crypto space right now. And we are trying, of course, to solve it by integrating our token in the products that we will build, because we have 3 in the pipeline. Construct is the first one, so that the value of this token will increase as the people who need to who want to use our product will have to use the token. And this is the answer to the question of why a DAO with token and not a DAO with NFTs. Having one NFT, for example, in this equation where you have a product that needs to be used, you cannot take fees in NFTs or whatever, right? So you need to have the token in order to be able to add utility to that token through the product. So the standard token is the governance token for the StakeBorg DAO, and you can vote for everything in the StakeBorg DAO, similar to like all the DAOs, to ENS, Aave, and so on. Ape.
That's the only DAO vote I've ever done, by the way, is through the ENS system.
Yeah. Have you voted?
I have done before. Yeah.
Okay. So
it's very empowering.
It is, and what I like about ENS is that, and I had them on my pod. They stubbornly don't want to give other utility to the token, and I think that's a good thing. So we need to have this example of this is a token that will never ever had any other utility except voting, and we will see what happens, because if their hypothesis is right, we will see more and more tokens going in that direction by taking the good practices from ENS, which I think will be positive for the industry. So their experiment with a token that has only governance is very useful to the whole ecosystem. The standard token gives you the right to vote, and in the future, if you want to use any of the products that we will build as DAO tooling, you will have to have standards. So for the token holders, because that's important as well, besides like voting, the value of the token will be driven by the utility of the products that we will build. So if you trust us that we'll be able to build meaningful products and market those products out, probably having the token will help.
So Vlad, I want to ask you, within your ecosystem of StakeBorg, you can stake your tokens, correct?
Yep.
So I want to talk about staking risk factors, because obviously this is a really important topic at the moment, and one that has hurt our industry a lot. We've seen the biggest Vlad, I can see you're gearing up. I'm ready to take this on.
Yeah, I am.
We've seen the biggest project crashes in crypto history recently. It's it's scary. It doesn't feel good, unfortunately. So, what are the risk factors to staking that investors must understand?
I think staking is neutral, it's harmless. Staking doesn't hurt you at all. What people are doing through staking is the problem. So, similar to technology is neutral. Technology doesn't care if you like the technology or you hate it. It works the same for the people who love it and for the people who hate it. I think staking, as what Ethereum, for example, wants to do, so moving from proof of work to proof of stake, I think it will be a success. And I think to find ways to validate transactions and to add security without using a lot of energy is important. I'm not saying that Bitcoin is a problem to the environment of this world. That's pure stupidity. Whoever says that, he doesn't understand the numbers. I'm just saying that if
That's a whole nother topic there, Vlad.
exactly. I'm just saying that if proof of work would be the only way to actually validate transactions, it's not scalable. We cannot have 100 projects using proof of work, successful projects using proof of work without actually having issues with the environment and so on. So the migration to proof of stake done by Ethereum, I think it will be a success, and it will be meaningful for the industry to show that that's a valid direction. That's one part of the answer. The second part is, I think, and I've seen this debate with Kobe putting ApeCoin on under scrutiny because it was basically what Kobe said was, well, staking is just a way for holders to put their tokens, to not sell their tokens until VCs are having their tokens vested, so they will dump on people who are staking their tokens. I think he has a valid point from a historical perspective, but I don't believe that denies the value of having passive income from staking in the future. And let me explain. Crypto is very technical, it's not sexy, and we need to find ways for people to stay in the game. And passive income is one thing everyone understands, right? So because everyone understands that, I think it's an useful tool. And on top of that, I've seen many projects. Like in 2018, I remember a project called Land. And I was like watching that project and I was like, what they want to do and so on and so forth. It's interesting. Should I buy? And blah, blah, blah. I didn't. Land is the current Aave. Back then, if I would have bought back then, I would have been like 1000x. And stupid me was saying like, what if you buy and just take these tokens and forget about them, right? So I don't believe staking is a problem. The problem is with people. The problem is with greed. The problem is with people thinking short term. The problem is with us. The problem is with a few people creating big issues that reflect on many people. And that's another thing I said recently on a podcast. I think crypto has the problem of toxic leaders. And we've seen recently that the loudest mouths in the industry, there were toxic leaders. And we've seen the Luna episode with a toxic leader. And I will not mention more names, but you know exactly where I'm going with this. So the problem is with humans, not with technology.
Yeah, Vlad, scary times at the moment. You know, one of my most popular tweets this week alone was we need to be kinder to each other. But again, it all goes down to, long-term investment thinking, which I think is important to take note right now. What are the barriers of mass adoptions of DAOs right now, do you think?
First of all, let me say something really quick about what you said about being kind. I've seen, I'm seeing I'm seeing bear markets through the lens of how people interact with each other on Twitter. So the first part, and I'm seeing this the best by reading the comments Raul receives right now. So the first part of the bear market was more like, well, some of the people are saying you are talking shit, while the others are saying, well, let's see. The second stage, you are having people like 90% are angry because you said like things are going in the right direction because you have some time horizon, and they have a different one, right? The third stage, we've just been through this stage, is like everyone is cursing anyone. So it's not important if the tweet comes from Vitalik, Raul. It's like the first guy says we are going to zero, and then 100 people say you are an idiot, and then the other guy says to the other guy who said you are an idiot, no, you are an idiot. And it's like, when you don't understand anything from these comments, that means we are close to maximum pain. Right now, I think we are in the last stage where we are in the middle of maximum capitulation, and there is no one, because people got bored to curse, and they got bored to say like, you are guilty for my losses and you are guilty for my losses. So right now it's ghost town, and I think that's a very good sign for saying we are very close to the bottom. Right? And of course, now I can't remember your question.
My question was, what are the barriers of mass adoptions of DAOs right now?
The short answer is the same barriers we have with crypto. But with crypto, we are lucky. NFTs, I think they are productizing the industry. Before that, if anyone would have asked, well, tell me something easy about crypto, we were like, easy, nothing. I cannot explain nothing. I cannot explain something in easy.
Vlad, do you agree that we have to go back to education, which is, I think for me, that's where it looks like the whole scene has to do at the moment?
I think we should never move away from education. So it's even more than going back. It's even like a new industry needs educators, and the people who stay close to these educators, and I'm not saying because I'm one myself, I'm just saying like in general, right? You need to stay close to these people who are trying to explain to you what is happening. And NFTs made that simple. And on top of that, I think with DAOs in particular, we need some time. And we need some time and some failures and some winners and some thick skin and some tears of joy or pain. And we should encourage the people to experiment. And that's the main reason why, from all the products that we could have built, we said no. DAO infrastructure is important because that will allow people to have a faster feedback loop. They will create DAOs faster because they create DAOs faster. They will fail faster because they will fail faster. We will learn more. So I think the biggest barrier is the general crypto barrier. But after that, it all boils down to how do we encourage more people to fail with DAOs. And from this perspective, I think there are some VCs that are sacrificing some money by investing in DAOs. And I think A16Z, Z, not Z, is doing like a great job. And I think Electric Capital is doing a great job. So we need some money because people to experiment need some money, right? Yeah. Because with this money and with people's willingness to do interesting things with DAOs, I think we will overcome these barriers and we'll eventually win, because the better technology wins and the better structure within the better technology eventually wins.
Vlad, for anyone who wants to join you on this mad journey that you're on, tell us where they can find you and keep up with you, please.
So first of all, mad journey, I like it. So I will take that one. So you can find me on Twitter. I have a pretty complicated handle, so if we can add somewhere in the description, that will be helpful. But it's easier to find StakeBorg DAO on Twitter. You can find StakeBorg DAO on YouTube, and we can go from there because, you know, everything is interconnected.
Yeah, and I'm sure, you know, people who want to start learning from the community in Romania about how they're doing and how they're structuring themselves around a DAO, this is a good place to start. Thanks for joining us on Real Vision today, Vlad.
Elaine, thanks a lot. It was a pleasure.
Hey, visionaries. Thank you for tuning in. For more free crypto content like this, head over to realvision.com/crypto. You'll get early access to the most brilliant minds in the space to cut through the noise, get in-depth analysis, and get you ahead of the curve with unbiased insights.